Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 21st episode of ESO Live. Today on Thursday, because we're not here tomorrow.
Yep, we're closing the observation of Independence Day tomorrow. We do usually do this show on Fridays, every other Friday, so don't come looking next Thursday. We won't be here.
Usually Fridays. Today's a special day. Well, to get started, we should take a look at the show overview. Okay. See what we got going on. Anytime. Show overview, there it is.
All right, so we have upcoming in-game fan events first.
After that, we are going to get into some official ESOTU news.
Then we will have Life at ZOS with Sound Designer Bill Mueller.
He makes noises.
Yep.
After that, we will get into some fan creations.
And then we will have a pretty long segment with lead combat designer Wrobel, where we will talk about combat changes coming soon. Lots of improvements, bug fixes, a whole lot of stuff happening. There's a lot to talk about, so we hope you stick with us. We think we've got a really great show lined up. So let's get started by taking a look at the community events you can participate in over the next couple weeks. All right, so every week, players in the game, what? Not yet. Every week, players in the game run live events. Usually they're role-play events, and we encourage you to participate in some of them. So we're going to take a look at some that are happening over the next couple of weeks. So first up, we have the Blood Moon Auspice Vigil Skirmish. So this is a part of a series of events. You're invited to join the skirmish near Fort Amel, near Vigil Patrol and Auspice Scouts. Or excuse me, between a Vigil Patrol and Auspice Scouts. This is happening tomorrow, Friday, July 3rd at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the North American Mega Server in Stone Falls. All Ebonheart Pact members are welcome.
Here we have the Smash Crab Tavern Nights. This is a weekly tavern night in Windhelm, but it sounds like you are going to have to sneak through because it takes place in the Locked House of Thane Mera. This is on Saturdays at 1930 BST on the European Mega Server in Windhelm on PC Mac.
Next up, we have the Falmore Citizens Symposium. All Dominion citizens are welcome. This is an open, free discussion on the elimination of Daedra. This should be an important topic to anyone. This happens on Sunday, July 5th and Sunday, July 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the North American Mega Server. That's the PC Mac one. In Eldenroot for all Alt-Mary Dominion members.
Next, we have a new event. It's Encyclopedia Tomb 1. So if you want to help some librarians recreate the archive rooms and properly illustrate their bestiary, you should head to, well, everywhere in Tamriel except for Cyrodiil and Craglorn. This is going to be on the European Mega Server on Sunday, July 5th at 8 o'clock p.m. BST.
Next up, we have the Sundus Respite at Ravensmere Inn. So this is one that welcomes all travelers to join in celebration for the weekly gathering. So it's every week. Warm food and cold ale will be waiting for you. This happens on Sunday, July 5th and Sunday, July 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the North American PC Mac Mega Server in the Ravensmere Inn. And this is open to all Alt-Mary Dominion members.
We have Blood Moon, the Red Cleanse.
The sequel.
So if you are interested in joining this large rally, head to Stone Falls on the North American Mega Server on Sunday, July 5th at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time.
Next up is the Reachman Invasion. So this is one where you can participate. It looks like there's going to be two different groups. You can see on the map there the red and the green. This happens Tuesday, July 7th all the way through Sunday, July 12th. So it's a long-spanning event. It starts at 7 p.m. British Summertime to 11 p.m. British Summertime nightly. This is in East March, as you can see on the map on the European Mega Server. All Ebonheart Pact members are welcome. And there's a bigger picture of the map so you can see where it takes place.
Next up, we have Tales from the Second Era, the final battles. This is a massive army of Reachmen that are headed to this 3-day roleplay event. You want to go to the North American mega server and contact the human Floyd for more information on exactly where you should meet up. This is going to be Thursday through Saturday, starting on July 10th.
Next up, we have the House Rousseau Skooma Den Nights. This sounds like a fun one. Anyone wanting to partake in deals, trades, sales, or shenanigans?
I love shenanigans.
With fellow criminals should attend this biweekly Den Night. This happens on Saturday, July 12th next at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the North American PC Mac Mega Server at the Inn in Sentinel for Daggerfall Covenant members. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention the most epic thread of all time on Reddit.
Oh, right. This is, what was it? Hello, this is Khajiit?
Yes.
Oh my god, that was funny.
This was an amazing thread found on the ESO subreddit where one of our players was basically role-playing
doing an AMA.
Khajiit, yep, doing an AMA, and it is so funny, you guys. You need to check it out.
A bunch of people at the studio posted in the thread. They were reading it over the week. We had, what, Matt, Lawrence, Rich, Wynn.
A lot of people in there just laughing their little tails off. So it's a good time. I think he's still answering some questions on and off, so take a look.
So definitely check it out.
And next we are going to get right into some of our official news. We're going to get into some news. So this past Monday, we released a new patch on PC and Mac. It was 2.0.12. This was pretty large at 15 gigabytes because there were so many improvements to audio. And we have Bill Mueller, who's going to be talking about some of those improvements and why the heck is so big.
Yep.
On Monday, this coming up Monday, we are planning another maintenance for PC and Mac to push a new patch. It'll be 2.0.13. It's going to be a lot smaller than last time in size and in fixes. So it's just a couple little quest fixes, new terms of service.
Yep.
So
kind of minor stuff, but we are doing it.
Yep.
Also, we do have new regular maintenance times for consoles, so you know when to expect them. They are Tuesday for Xbox and Wednesday for PlayStation 4. I believe they're 6 to 10-ish?
6 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And we won't be doing that every week, but when we do need to do a regular maintenance, that's when you can expect the consoles to be updated.
And that is for both North America and Europe. They do have to be done together the way that they're structured, as opposed to PC and Mac, which we do separately.
Yep. Some of you may have noticed we released the Frostmare mount today on the Crown Store. Now, this is a limited mount, only available from today until Tuesday?
Yes.
Tuesday at 10 a.m. Couldn't remember if
and
it was
that
Monday or
is Eastern
Tuesday.
Time.
Yep. So this guy is 3,000 crowns, available now. And I think we have a video. There it is.
There he is. Or she. She's a mare.
This is true. My apologies.
What a bargain.
And next up, we actually just named a few new community ambassadors, so you can pop in and say hello to them on our official forums.
It's attorney at law, Randolph Benoit. That's his name.
It's great.
And was it Khaled for German?
I don't remember. I'm
Or
sorry.
Chufu. I'm sorry. It started with a C, and they're all about 5 letters. But anyway, we did have 3 new ambassadors joining us this week.
So congrats, guys, and welcome.
And do you want to remind everybody what community ambassadors even are?
So our community ambassadors are appointed by the community, or nominated rather, and we pick them from the nominations. They help make the community a better place, particularly on the ESO forums, by helping answer questions, welcoming new players. They're typically very informative, have a lot of presence on the forums, and they also help tell us about what they think could make the community a better place. So they suggest events and contests for us, and just let us know how things are going within the community.
Yep. We have been getting some pretty fun contest ideas from them so far. Lastly, we know everybody's really excited to hear more about Imperial City. We can tell you that we will be giving you more information starting on July 13th.
So mark your calendars.
Mark your calendars. It's going to happen. July 13th.
Yep.
July 13th. Here's the thing. Monday, July 13th.
Yes. So next up, that's it for our news. We are going to talk to sound designer Bill Mueller. So hello, Bill.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining us
thanks for having
from
me on.
Audio Land.
Yeah, I came all the way.
All the way upstairs.
All the way.
upstairs.
2 stories?
It's not easy to open my closet and see all these other people that work in the studio.
Yeah, the audio guys, they're in these little tiny rooms that are fully soundproofed, and they really do kind of look like
I
a
have
little
no
closet.
idea what's going on.
It's
half the
actually
time.
padded.
Yeah.
Your rooms.
There are days where I walk out and I'm like, I wouldn't know if the entire building is burnt. I just walk out and just be fire everywhere. You know? Completely silent.
Everything is fine.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, what you do at ZOS?
Yeah, sure. So
on ESO?
I'm a sound designer. Sort of that role is think of anything that makes a sound in the game, whether it's an ability or something big like monsters, like Moloch Ball, screaming at you, to the tiniest little things like armor rustle sounds as your character moves. So we create all that stuff and implement that into the game. There's a team of 4 sound designers, including me, and Brad Derrick, who's the audio director, does the music for the game. We have an amazing QA team as well who helps us, find bugs and fix things that we all screw up. And Casey and Christy on that as well. Becky does a lot of the VO stuff. So it's a pretty big team of people who do a lot of different variations of sound design or VO or that kind of thing, music. And my role here is to do the sound effects. So
Nice. Do you ever make your own?
yeah. No, we we.
Oh, he's thinking about it.
I am thinking about it. Yeah, no, there are certain times when we'll take stuff from a library, and put stuff together, or there are times where we'll create our own stuff. So one of my favorite ones was the Gore butt slap that you have. So that was created. Yes, I did the Gore butt slap. That is me slapping.
Slapping what?
Slapping. Well, it's not actually my butt. Because that would be really awkward if I ever went on every single time I slapped my Gore, I hurt my butt.
Mine.
Yeah. It was CJ's butt. No, it's just my hand slaps together, and then I put some leather sounds into it to get the big Gore deep leather skin sound. But yeah, so no, we do stuff like that. The rune scraping stuff was again one of those things where it's just a knife on a rock, that kind of stuff. But then there's big things like like one of my more favorite sounds to do was the dark fissures. And it's not like I can just go walk around Baltimore and hold up a microphone looking for dark fissures.
Here it comes.
So that's something that we have to create completely out of whatever, So that was a really cool, fun sound to work on. That was a good, about 2 or 3 days of just iteration after iteration, because this was a sound that we want players, as they're walking around, they see a dark fissure or they hear it in the distance. They go,
know what it is.
Here comes some Daedra that are just randomly going to attack me. So we do a lot of stuff like that, and that is obviously not created from us, but taking sounds and mixing them together. I think that's a lot of trained sounds and metal grinding and that kind of thing. So stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how did you first break into the industry?
I've always loved audio, whether it was doing bands or that kind of stuff, but I love video games, and I knew I always wanted to somehow connect the two. But it's a tough industry to crack. Audio, even though there's a bunch of us, compare us to the rest of the company, we're a really small team, and so it's a niche within a niche if you're trying to get into the gaming industry. So it takes some time, but I always was an audio guy. I ended up working in radio for a couple of years as a production director, doing the commercials and all the stingers you hear on the radio. Did that for a few years. I moved my way to television, where I got to do a lot of live sound for TV.
Oh, cool.
I worked on an entertainment show, so we had a lot of bands come in. I had like Bare Naked Ladies, Placebo,
Nice.
that kind of stuff. So I got to mix bands live, and was nominated 3 years in a row for local Emmy Awards for doing my work there.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then again, I wanted to do sound design. I wanted to do video games. And so while I was doing radio, while I was doing TV, on the side, I'd go to like a gametrailers.com and download a trailer for some game or some gameplay for some game, and I'd strip out the audio and put my own in. And just started building a slow portfolio that I could start showing people that, hey guys, I can actually do this. And eventually got my first foot in the door at Turbine, actually as an associate producer, not as a sound designer, but as a way to step in to the industry and sort of start getting the lingo down and start introducing myself, getting to know people. And because of my background, they let me work with the audio department, sort of producing them a little bit and helping them with their schedules and doing some VO directing and that kind of thing. So it started my career, and got lucky again. There was a startup in Boston working on a music performance game, and they were looking for a sound designer, a guy who could mix music and had experience with that. So I went to go work for them for a couple of years, and we released our game. And then 38 Studios called me up one day and said, we're looking for that. And I think a lot of people know how that ended up. And so, but now I'm here, which is, it all works out at the end. So I'm
You have had quite a history.
Yeah. I tell people I don't complain about my jobs ever. I mean, I've had a fun career. I've been on radio, I've been on TV, and now I make video games. So
awesome. You've had quite the path through getting into the industry.
Yeah.
We get the question a lot, though, not quite as much as designers. How do I get into writing music for games, doing sound effect for games?
Yeah.
What would you recommend?
Man, you have to just do it. I mean, honestly,
just do it.
Just do it.
There you go.
No, really, it's audio is one of those things. You could go to an interview and you could tell people I can do audio, but until you can show it, no one's going to believe you, right? So
portfolios are
portfolios is important, and it doesn't matter if you have the experience or not. Like I said, go to a website, download the latest trailer for whatever. Take our trailer for example, download it, strip out the audio, put your own sound effects to it, put your own music to it, and start building a website, something you can show. And there's a lot of indie companies out there. There's a lot of other people, programmers, artists, designers who are trying to break in as well, and they would love to have a sound designer, love to have a composer who could help them out, and so offering yourself to do that is a huge help. And so any way you can build a portfolio so you can at least show up to an interview and say, look, this is what I can do, show that you can do it, and they'll help out a lot. So just do it, really, honestly.
Just do it,
just
you guys.
Do it.
So you already kind of touched on what you have done here already. Can you talk about what you're currently working on?
Yeah, sure. Well, first I'll talk a little bit about the patch on Monday. That's because that was a pretty big deal.
One. Yep.
So it was pretty big, and I'll explain why in a little bit. I apologize. But no, we over the past couple of months, we've been trying to take a lot of the feedback that we got from the players as far as the general mix was concerned. So there's a couple of things that we did. One of them was a lot of the feedback was, I'm not really hearing my stuff when I'm in Cyrodiil and I'm fighting a lot of stuff. A lot of people, there's all this sound going on, but I'm losing my impact. I'm losing my ability. So we took a look at how we could sort of clear out the clutter around the player and allow just the player's sounds to come through a little bit more. So that was a huge mix change in that. And I think a lot of people, if you were playing the game for as long as you have since launch or since beta, and then you load it up post Monday's patch, you might notice the game sounds a lot different, So, but that was completely done intentionally. We're trying to clear out the clutter, especially in Cyrodiil, and allow your sounds to be the important one. So that was a lot of work. A lot of the guys we worked on doing that. And then the second thing we did was, since we were moving on to console, surround sound became a lot more important than it was for PC. A lot of console players like to sit on their couch, they got that 5.1 system at home. We really wanted to revamp the complete surround sound system that we did for that. So we redid surround sound, sort of making sure that things were just positionally correct. Your sounds were coming from the front, everybody else's was around you, making it more of an immersive experience. So there's a lot of changes there as well. And then the PC players obviously will get that as well. So if you have that surround system in your basement next to your PC or whatever, you'll get that as well.
It's really noticeable when you're in town.
It's huge. I love it. I mean, I'll just sit in my office and just sit in the middle of Glenumbra or something and just hear the birds flying around me. And it's amazing. I mean, you get the thunder going off behind you, the wind over here. It's really cool. So we were really glad that we took the time to do that. It was definitely worth it. And we did some performance changes as well. Just sort of, there was a time in Cyrodiil when you had 100 people all spamming abilities and doing this. You'd have over 100 calls for the same sort of ability to go off. And we found that was crushing a lot of people's CPU. So we put some playback limits on that to sort of help with how your CPU was handling things and give it some room to do some animations and do this other stuff to hopefully help with the lag a little bit that was experiencing there. So yeah, that came out on Monday as well. So yeah, that was what we've been working on the past couple of months, was console and sort of revamping the mix. But of course, we're still working on things. We got the Orsinium DLC and the Imperial City DLC. We're working pretty hard on that right now. Brad Derrick, he's been working his butt off, working on some new music for the game.
Nice.
So I know people have been asking for that.
Can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was playing it the other day and I heard some ambient stuff that he did, and I was like, oh, texting him right away. This is awesome.
Is that how you text?
That's how I text. Yeah. It's crazy. Usually it just comes out as blah 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 blah, and then I have to slow down. But no, yeah. So that music is sounding awesome, and he's still working on that. I don't think there's any dates as to when he's going to release it, but he's working on that. So players, new music coming.
And that's for existing zones, right?
Existing zones as well, yeah, not just for the other stuff, the new zones coming out. So that'll be cool. And he also has this new thing that I'm pretty excited about is the dynamic combat music system that's coming out. So he's working on it now, and it sounds so cool. But the gist of it is. Right now, when you get into combat, you'll hear combat music. You get out of combat, you hear combat music. You don't hear combat music, so it's pretty on and off.
Sure.
But the new system will actually sort of look to see what it is that you're fighting. So if I'm fighting single mud crab, the music will get a little intense. And then as other mud crabs sort of come in or other monsters come in, the music will get more and more intense.
More metal.
More metal. I'm sure Brad would love it to be more metal. So it'll build an intensity to sort of go along with how the fight's going. And as you kill those mud crabs and come back down, the music will also follow that as well. But it also can see how your health is doing. So if you're in the middle of a fight, and your health starts to get low, you can add in layers of music to sort of tell the player you're about to die, you know, that kind of thing. So be nice and dynamic, and will flow with the sort of how the combat is going. And also bosses will be flagged as being, this is a boss music section. So as soon as you engage the boss, the music will kick up to 12, and because we go above 11, kick up to 12, and you know, have this big booming, awesome soundtrack to go along with it. So it'll be really awesome and really nice and cinematic and stuff. So he's excited about that. It sounds really cool. And again, we don't have dates for that yet, but he's been working on it, and it's coming out really good. So
great.
That sounds neat.
And I imagine that'll be in surround sound too.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So we have a couple questions from chat.
Okay.
If you want to answer them.
No.
Okay. Well, fine.
I would love to.
Somebody was asking if we will ever see more voice options. I imagine for their character.
I think that's something that we are thinking about. You mean like adding more voices to players?
Right.
That's a little tough to do. There is 144 options for players right now, depending on when you add in all the races and stuff. So there's already a lot. So I don't know if it's on the plans to bring in more actors than 144. That's already a lot. But we are adding more sounds to that as they add more animations, more emotes, and that kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
We are looking to add more to the existing set that's already there. So,
cool.
I'm going to skip this question about the fart emote.
Do they want to know who made that sound?
There's a fart emote?
No, they want one. Which I don't want to see that being made, all right? For the record.
I'll bet the audio team does. Is that one of the audio guys?
What? That's a good question, actually. Somebody was asking if you voice any of the NPC characters.
We can't do the NPC stuff just because of the way that the SAG works. The
Screen Actors
Guild works. But we can do like sound effects and things of that nature. So you might hear our voices in certain things. I think last time Josh was here, he was the Manticora, so he did some.
Oh yeah, that's
that.
right.
And,
all those pictures came out.
They made that meme for that, which was great. We all love that. I am some critters in Craglorn. So if you're walking around, there's a gecko that does a little thing, and that's me doing the thing. Interestingly enough, we will bring other people up every once in a while, and I was working on Veteran Crypt of Hearts, and the final boss has this huge skull fire missile that he launches at you, and I wanted this really cool scream sort of to go with it, and so my wife, who works here as well, I had her come up into the studio and had her do some sort of really scary ballsy screaming type stuff on the microphone. So she's actually in the game as well. So we'll do things like that where we'll add our voices to things to add it up.
Somebody was asking if we could have an immediate fall sound. He said blood-curdling screams seem less appropriate when falling down a small ledge.
Yeah, yeah, we could probably do stuff like that. I think that's all controlled by code, so it looks to see how far you've been falling. So it knows if it is a really bad scream. So yeah, well, we can look into that maybe.
More of a oof than a
oof than a. Okay.
I saw a video recently of I think it was a player who was bugged in Cyrodiil where
I know the one you're talking about, yeah.
I was crying, I was laughing so hard. He died or something, or fell over, and he just kept on screaming over and over again.
Geez.
But he was on his head, too.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
His head was like through the ground, and he just wouldn't stop screaming.
Because we did fix that a while ago, because there was a part where you could, I think it was one of the dungeons, where you jump through the floor and you fall for a really long time.
Oh, right.
And your player would scream constantly on the way down. So we had to put some logic in there that was like, no, you scream, now shut up for 3 seconds. So
yeah, stop screaming.
Yeah. So
You'll be fine.
We could do stuff like that, but that's funny.
I think that just about wraps it up.
Okay.
I know some of the guys were talking about doing a live band performance. The audio guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll come down.
Make that happen.
All right, we'll
please.
do it. I'll talk to the guys and we'll bring our instruments down. I play saxophone, so
Can I
it's,
dance in a cage?
no.
We hear your saxophone skills are.
They're really, really good. Don't listen
Yeah.
to her. Yeah.
If
they're-
by
they're
really good, you mean really painful.
Oh, come on. It's not fair. There was beer involved.
Well, I think this is a good time to do a giveaway.
Yay.
We're going to
What do I
give
get?
away this hat.
This guy, you want to put it on?
The nest or the hat?
I want to
The
put the hat.
hat.
It's the hat. Sorry.
Do I get to keep it if I put it on?
So the key word to win Bill's hat is going to be helm. H-E-L-M. Helm. I feel like I'm in a spelling bee.
You did really good.
I just want to make sure everybody knows the proper spelling, so everyone has a chance to win.
Yeah, it's a nice hat. I like
Bill's
it.
hat.
Yeah.
Looks pretty cool. Will they get this one that's on my head?
If they want.
They can have it, sure. I did shower today. So.
What are some other good sound stories? Like, you said that you had a bunch of random people coming in making puking noises.
Oh, that
One
was one thing that Josh did. Yeah, there was an item that causes the player to throw up. When
Oh,
they-
it's like the
when they eat it.
mysterious meat
Meat,
or
yeah.
something.
Oh, I
Yeah.
saw a very funny thread on Reddit where a bunch of people
Yeah.
put that in a room and just waited.
They were just
someone to
waiting
come
for
in.
people to come in.
That's awesome. Yeah, so no, we had Josh had a bunch of people just come into his office and just try throwing up sounds. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's fun.
But not actual vomit.
I don't think so. No, it would have been pretty messy in his office.
Well, we have a winner for the hat.
This one.
It is going to be Mikey0127.
Yay.
Congrats!
Congrats, Mikey. We'll be in touch with you on Twitch at some point. Look out for a message from Jason Levy. He'll be getting in touch with you so we can ship this out. Either that one or a new one that's wrapped up.
Probably want this one.
Your pick.
Well, coming up next, we are going to get into fan creations. But thank you, Bill, for
Hey.
joining us
Thank you
today.
so much.
Anytime. Thanks for having
Great
me,
to
guys.
have you.
Appreciate it. It's fun. Fun.
And now we're going to look at pretty pictures. Welcome back. We are going from sounds to
Art.
I don't know, visuals. Yeah, art. So let's dive into our first piece. So this first one is Nithira by Sugary Substance. This was found on Tumblr. This is just some doodles of the artist Elfby from ESO. This is a very cute take on our elves.
This is Are You Sure You're Not a Khajiit, Sir? By Tanya on Tumblr. It's a very cute one. This one, we don't know a whole lot about actually, but it looks like it's a little high elf, possibly?
I actually want to know if that is a Khajiit
I
or
do
one
too.
of our new mounts.
Or a cinch.
It's true. Could be anything. So mysterious. This next one is Drinks with Darian by Artie Helion on Tumblr. He was saying, I really wish you could go drink with Darian after all the werewolf business, like he kept suggesting. He was a super funny and interesting character. Don't we all wish we could go have a drink with Darian?
And get little red noses like that. This is You're Awake Now, Sleeping Kitten by Artsy Time on Tumblr. And this is our everybody's favorite, Razumdar.
I think somebody was saying this is something he actually said in the game.
After you get thrown in prison.
I think I'm going to call Eric Wrobel Sleeping Kitten. So this one is Lights Out by Biggs2, found on DeviantArt. This is a High Elf Templar character. I am not even going to attempt the name, but it translates to Valley of the Stars. And this is also the character's Sench Lioness, Sazai. The artist loves Elden Root and all the torch bugs found in Tamriel, which we can see displayed here.
And the character's lioness mount. This is Kitty by Lots of Fours
Four.
on DeviantArt. So this must be her Khajiit character.
Yeah. Actually, her Khajiit is named Kitty.
Aha!
I don't make these things up. It is a true story. This is The Secret Phala Tree by Blackrin Zero, found on our official ESOTU forums. This is a painting of a ceremonial wedding spot hidden deep within Merkmire.
Very pretty. And this is Elsinia Nightwind by the Sweet Roll Thief on Tumblr. This is a digital painting of a Bosmer character.
I wonder if that's the same Sweet Roll Thief that won
I wonder that too.
our contest from so long ago.
Yeah.
I forget. I think it was the emote contest.
It was.
I remember.
If it's you,
Odd things.
we remember.
We know.
So that wraps up our fan art section. If you ever have creations you'd like to send to us, remember you can send them to us at community@elderscrollsonline.com, and we may feature them on the show and also the Tamriel Chronicle. So next up, we are going to finally talk with lead combat designer Eric Wrobel. So stick around.
Hey guys,
Hello,
I'm here.
Eric.
It's been a while.
Welcome.
I'm really excited to be back on the show.
We shop at the same store.
Whoa, you got one of these too.
I did.
Oh man. Yeah, there was like a clearance sale. I got a really good deal.
So, for those of you wondering, these are shirts that we gave out to everybody in celebration of console launch. So,
We did it.
We did it.
so, gosh, let's just dive right in. You've been busy.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
little bit. Just a little.
Yeah, I got notes there. Yeah, it's been so long since I've been on the show. There's just like so much stuff to talk about that I guess we're actually gonna have like a multi-part thing, right? Where like next show also I'll be on to talk about more of the different types of changes and things we've been doing. But yeah, it's been really busy.
Lots of combat, skill line, class.
Yep. There's there's like a whole bunch of abilities or item stuff that I don't even have time to talk about today, but there'll be a segment on that coming up in the future as well.
I'm sure everyone's like, no, stay, talk. Well, what do you want to start with?
Oh man, there's so much stuff.
I know.
Should we just start with?
We
like,
should just keep talking about how much stuff there is and not tell
and then,
anyone
and
what
then
it
just
is.
be like, well, that was an hour. Sorry guys, we'll have to get to it next time. Yeah, so we got some heavy hitters here. We could just get right in there.
Let's dive in.
Yeah.
Say
this one's gonna be a little bit of a roller coaster. There's some good things. There's some bad things.
I'm ready.
Know. Your heart's
do
it's gonna go up and then it's gonna shoot down. All right. So first of all, we're gonna start off talking about veteran ranks. Slightly controversial. We have talked about on occasion removing them.
That is still happening.
That is still a goal for us, but it's a little bit more of a long-term goal. So we made some sort of short-term changes as well. And right now, a lot of the itemization is sort of tied in with the veteran ranks. So when you get higher veteran rank items, they're also more powerful. So we're sort of continuing that. And with the next update, you'll be able to get to veteran rank 16. Got to make sure I say the right number. There's a couple of things we're working on. 16 right now. So that means the items will have a pretty dramatic power increase going up to 16. But also, we are aware that it's a little bit painful to get veteran ranks right now.
Takes a while.
I've heard that a couple times.
Takes a pretty significant, number of hours. So we've made 4 changes to experience values in the game globally to help.
I can see everyone in chat is like, oh my god. No, just listen.
Wait.
Okay.
Don't leave.
It's okay.
We have the answers.
Deep breaths. Together we can get through this.
Yeah. Okay. So first off, probably one of the biggest ones is that the amount of experience to get all veteran ranks from 1 through 16, and in any future ones potentially, is reduced by 15%.
Okay.
So no matter what your playstyle, you'll just be able to get them faster. So that's
And that includes the new ones.
yeah. So that
very
helps.
nice.
Yeah, people who are getting the new ones can get those a little bit faster. People who are trying to catch up, have not quite as far as a way to go. And then on top of that, all of the quest rewards for veteran ranks 1 through 16 have been increased by 50%.
Nice.
Which is
That's a pretty big increase.
That's a big
Yeah.
chunk, right?
Yep.
So we sort of arrived at that value. We did a bunch of internal testing where we had our QA folks do a variety of different types of combat and questing and going through a lot of different areas and playing through them. And questing was not giving quite as much experience as the others. So we gave it a pretty good jump to sort of,
Kind of bring it in line.
yeah, bring it in line with the others.
Right.
And then the other two are the public dungeons, which are the really big overworld spaces. They're not the delves, which are the smaller ones, but they're a little bit bigger. And
Right.
they're sort of
Kind of in
generally-
between the delves and the instance
Yeah, they're not
dungeons.
like quite the big 4-person groups with the super bosses, but
Right.
yeah, they're a little bit in between. So those we doubled the experience
For all of them?
for all of them. So that
Nice.
those are pretty legit now.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is in Craglorn, we increased the experience of everything in the zone by 20%. So that's monster kills and quest.
Great.
So that's
Excellent.
sort of like, I think it got nerfed a little bit too much, so we just kind of wanted to bump that up so it's
Sure.
a little bit more competitive with some of the other areas in the game.
Can we just go over that one more time? Bullet point, Cliff's Notes version, just, so everybody kind of gets it because everyone's throwing numbers around everywhere.
Oh, wow, oh my god, there's
I'm going to do
numbers.
it. I remembered everything. So increasing to veteran rank 16 in the next major content update. We are increasing the XP that you get from veteran quests. We're increasing the XP
How much?
By
Yeah, numbers?
50%.
50%.
50.
50. right?
50%.
50.
We are increasing the XP you get from public dungeons by double.
Yeah.
I'm doing this.
Wow.
We're increasing the XP you get from Craglorn by 20%.
Nice.
And
You
then
got it.
I feel like I'm being quizzed here.
And then decreasing.
Decreasing the XP it takes to gain a veteran rank by 15%.
Yep.
Nice.
So-
You got it all. Good work.
I did it.
Yeah. We should hire you. You're doing a great
I
job.
should write the patch notes for it
Yeah,
or something.
You should. Wow. Yeah, these are going to be really good patch notes.
Well, now that that's out of the way, what else we got? What else have you been doing?
All right, there's more. We're just getting warmed up.
But wait.
So we've gotten a lot of feedback from players regarding serial combat, and we've also done quite a bit of testing internally, having battles and sort of tweaking the numbers and changing things around. And I think one of the favorite things that I read on the forums was them comparing our combat to a first-person shooter, where you like walk around the corner and you get a headshot and you just get killed.
It's
You know?
gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right now there's not a lot of time for sort of reactive gameplay where, in first-person shooter, like, you have your gun and you're shooting, whereas our game, you have, 5 skills, you have an ultimate, you have potions, you
Right.
have
Yeah.
a weapon swap, so there's a lot more things that you can do, so we want the combat times to be longer, so you have, the time to
Just
be
more
able
time
to
to react.
activate
Yeah.
those abilities
Yeah.
and use the
Strategy.
different strategies or defensive abilities to counter their offensive abilities, that kind of stuff. So specifically what we've done with the battle spirit buff is we've increased the values on it. So now it's going to be 50% reduction to damage, healing, and damage shields. So that sort of helps fix the problem of the health bars would sort of, they go down really fast when you get hit with the damage, and then you heal and it'd go up really fast, and it was sort of like spiking all over the place.
Right.
And with these changes, it's going down in smaller chunks at a smaller rate, but also with healing, it's going up at a smaller rate as well. So there's
Makes
a
it a
lot
little
more
bit
time.
more easy to anticipate if you're a tank or a healer, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and yeah, we're sort of excited to get those on the PTS and get people sort of playing with those numbers. We've done a bunch of internal testing, and we're overall pretty happy with that. But we could end up tweaking that a little bit in either direction. So yeah, people can get on PTS and check that out. We would really appreciate it, and I think it's just a lot more fun when you have time to like use your abilities. And
Yeah.
participate in combat.
You're not just getting stomped.
Whew. All right. There's still
I know
more.
you've got more.
Yep.
Do you want to go back and answer a question in the meantime? We're kind of on a little bit of a delay, so.
Yeah, I can do that. Hit me.
May as well, right?
What do you got?
Everyone's kind of wondering, you know, you've talked about removing the veteran ranks, but now we're increasing the veteran ranks, so why even increase them? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit with
Yeah, so
the
it's
itemization.
basically, yeah, the way our system works is just like really, we have these things really tightly coupled with the item power and the veteran ranks right now. So in general, when we remove the veteran ranks, we want to do a more system-wide approach and have like the rest of the game work well with not having the veteran ranks. Like if we just stripped them out and then it was just like, oh yeah, there's just more levels and those levels take like 20 hours to achieve,
Sure.
like that's not really gonna
Changing anything.
It's like, well, why did you
Right.
take it out then? Like, why did you do all that
Yeah,
effort?
yeah.
So like we have a longer term goal to take them out, but in the short run we want to make it so that it's not this crazy long grind to get them right now. And I think with these experience changes, it's feeling a lot better.
So when we do take them out, I'm not going to lose progress if I continue to go up to VR 15, VR 16, and get
Right. The
champion
current
points.
plan right now is you would keep that progress,
Okay.
and then there'd just be other sort of systems that we change to sort of help support that.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, so what do you want to get into next? Maybe some class changes?
Yeah, we can do some class changes.
Let's talk about some class changes.
So sort of like we do with every patch, we have a huge list of changes that we have for sort of every single class and all the skill lines. So I'm just going to highlight a couple here that are sort of more dramatic or exciting or, you know,
Yeah.
fun and change the gameplay in
Go ahead.
big ways.
Do it. And to be clear, there's a lot of class changes coming, but you're just talking about a couple of them.
Yes.
Not,
Yeah.
not all of them.
Yes. I mean, if you guys have like 10 hours, I guess we could talk about all of them.
You know what? I wouldn't
we've
put it
seen
past
the
some
patch
people.
notes. Nope.
Okay. So for the Dragon Knight, we have a number of changes to Stonefist. Because right now it's sort of like a mid-range stun ability, and there aren't really any abilities like that, and it's kind of just not as good as other more popular abilities like the Piercing Javelin, which has, you know, a much longer range. So we increased its range to the full 28 meters. But then that created a problem of the Obsidian Shard morph, which was like, that was its cool thing, is it had the range increase. So we decided to help sort of support the healing Dragon Knight sort of support role with this ability. So now that Obsidian Shard morph, instead of having the extra range, it'll heal a target. And to like, so that we could really get like a powerful heal on it, we actually made it do slightly less damage, but then it gives a really powerful heal. So it's a great support ability when, you know, my ally's over here, so I can throw a rock at him. It'll knock the guy down, it'll do some damage, and it'll give a good heal to that guy.
So all the morphs, so the original Stonefist and the two morphs will have the same range?
Yep, they'll have the increase. And then Obsidian Shard, yeah, is like, if I'm trying to be heal support, that's the morph I want. And, you know, the other morph is sort of more of a tanky sort of morph, so you can sort of choose what kind of style you want with that.
Great.
And then another major change we made for the Dragon Knight was with the Battle Roar passive. This is a really iconic passive for the Dragon Knight and really sort of sets him apart from the other classes, because when he activates an ultimate, he gets all 3 resources returned, health, magic, and stamina.
Right.
Right now on live, the resource restore rates are based on your max magicka, which is a little bit weird, because if you're a tank, then it's like, well, I don't really want to put a whole bunch of points in max magicka, but it's like sort of increasing my regeneration. So we made it so that each stat will now scale based on its value. So if I have a lot of health and I activate Battle Roar, I'll get a lot of health back. If I have a lot of stamina and I activate Battle Roar, I'll get a lot of stamina back. So it sort of more fits your class, and it makes the choices you've made to customize your character more important.
Okay. I have a feeling people are going to want to respec with this change.
Maybe not. We're definitely talking about giving everyone free respecs, because there are a pretty dramatic number of changes. The good thing about Battle Roar is it's a passive, and pretty much everyone just buys like every passive, because it's like, yeah, this is just gonna make me better all the time, pretty much. So I might as well buy it, right? So yeah, I would expect most people to have that, but in
But
general,
maybe reallocating stat or attributes.
yeah, but in general, like things like the Stone Fist, people might like have the other morph, and they're like,
Yeah,
well, no, I want
yeah.
to try out the healing one, or you know, I'd morphed it to a tank one back in the day, and I want to do the healing one now. So, it kind of just makes sense to let people sort of switch around when we've made a lot of changes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Which we happen to make a lot of changes every update,
Yeah.
so we're giving out some respects to
Kind of
people.
sticking with the trend here.
Yeah. So next up is the Nightblade.
Okay.
You don't do
Shadow
anything
Cloak?
with those, huh?
Yeah.
Shadow Cloak?
It's a really signature ability that Nightblades use to escape danger. We're pretty happy with the changes we made. We might still tweak this a little bit, you know, sort of like based on PTS feedback, but what we've done is made it so that that single target attacks will no longer take you out of Shadow Cloak.
Nice.
Because
That's great.
there were a couple of instances, like if someone activated a charge ability and started charging at you and then you Shadow Cloaked,
Yeah,
they
it would
couldn't
still
see
fire.
you, but yeah, it would still fire and hit you, and then since you took damage, it would remove the Shadow Cloak. Or someone would wind up a heavy attack, you would Shadow Cloak, but then they would let go of the heavy attack, and it would hit an invisible person, which was you, and then you would take damage and get
And lose
removed
your
as
Shadow
well.
Cloak,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So there were frustrating things on the sort of the defensive side of Shadow Cloak, and then the offensive side, there were a couple of damage over time effects where if I had used this attack on someone, you know, 5 seconds ago, and then I activate Shadow Cloak, the attack would then deal damage to them and remove my Shadow Cloak.
So your own abilities.
Yeah, so your own abilities were sort of causing that. And there were just a few abilities like that. We had gotten most of them, but there were one or two where we sort of like cleaned that up too.
Right.
So that should definitely make the ability a lot more reliable.
Does that
So
include...
AoEs.
Sorry.
Oh.
I was going to say, does that include Dark Cloak?
Yeah, all
Okay,
the
great.
Shadow Cloak and all the morphs.
So
And,
AoEs still
Yeah,
drop
AoEs,
you
because
out.
we wanted there to be some counterplay to the ability. It's not like, oh, I just press this and I'm invincible and no one can do anything to me. It's like you can still be hit, and you still have to sort of like, you know, watch your positioning when you use the ability. So it's not like the perfect like I win button kind of thing.
But it should
it's,
make it more reliable, especially in PvP.
Yeah, and really powerful when you need to get that quick escape away from them. And then someone was asking if we were making any changes to iterate further on some of the stuff we had done in Update 6. So a good example of that is the Grim Focus ability, which is the one where you activate it and you get a damage buff for 20 seconds, and then after you had done 7 light attacks, you would be able to... The button sort of flips over to this new ability, and it lets you fire this really high damage spectral bow,
Right.
which is really really fun and powerful
And cool.
yeah. And in general, the gameplay of this is a lot more interesting than just like a buff that I'm hitting every 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more interactive, and it's not just like, oh, I kind of ignore that button on my hotbar for the most part.
You look forward to that coming up so you can...
Yeah, you're like, come on,
Yeah.
let me hit this. So in general, 7 light attacks was just a little too many, sort of based on the general average combat times. It would come up sort of at the end of the battle, or you know, like once sort of like a key moment in the battle had already been decided.
Yeah, usually you don't last that long in PvP.
Yeah, I mean, granted, it's a little bit better with the kill times right now that it's 50%, but still, we wanted to make sure that you could get in and use that a lot more frequently. So we've set that to 4 light attacks instead of 7, so you can. That's almost half as many. So you can definitely use that a lot more frequently.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
feels a lot better. There are more classes though.
Yeah.
I think
One
we
more?
should continue talking. No, 2 more.
Wait, we did Dragon Knight
Yeah.
and Nightblade.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yes.
There's a lot of classes.
more.
It's easy to get
it.
get mixed up.
What are we going to do next?
Okay, let's go with Templar.
Okay.
I think we should.
Yeah.
There have been some Templar complaints.
Yeah. Okay. we have been reading about those. We have been listening to those.
Yep.
So I'm just going to talk about sort of 2 major ones, and just believe me when I say we address some other issues.
There
as well,
are a
and-
lot of patch notes, yes.
There's some Templar notes. So focus charge is a big one, and the biggest problem with that was responsiveness, because when you activated like the 2-handed charge or the sword and shield charge, as soon as you got to the target, you could activate an ability, or you could do like a light attack, and he would get in there and do it pretty much immediately. Whereas with focus charge, you get there, you know, you jump, you stab him, and then you're like hanging out for a while, and then the ability goes off. So this was never really intended. This was just sort of like a bug with how the ability was set up. So we basically removed that delay. So now it's just as responsive as the other charges, where once you get to the target and attack, you can now activate the ability immediately. So you don't feel like you're like losing damage when you activate the ability.
Yeah, or waiting for the animation to finish.
And you can just like, oh, like now I charged in here, so I need to like activate a defensive ability. You know, you can get there and
a little more snappy.
Yeah. And while we're snapping on the topic of quick snappy things, Rush Ceremony. So this is the Templar's sort of big bomb heal. It has a really high healing value, but it's also pretty magicka expensive. This one we edited it is an instant cast ability, but we changed up the animation a little bit, because before it was like a really long, slow, like hand sweeping motion, and then like you finally got to the top, and then the heel.
On, wax off.
Yeah. So and we'd gotten a lot of player feedback about how it was like really frustrating about they're like, I want the wax to get there faster, and like it's going on and I want it to go off and stuff like that. So we adjusted the speed of the animation so it like gets there a lot more faster, so the heel will pop off like right when you need it. So there's still like a little tiny delay, but it feels a lot better than it did before.
Everyone's happy, just so you know.
Yeah, make them happy. That's what we're here for.
Oops, sorry.
And then in general, sort of with all the changes in general that we're doing, we're trying to increase diversity and give people more options. So we keep sort of rebalancing things, because some things get more powerful, and then you know, other things aren't as powerful relative to that. And we want people to sort of be able to explore and be successful with all of the abilities, and not just like someone's like, oh yeah, no one ever uses that ability because it's just, you know, it's just way not as powerful. So sort of in that vein with Rush Ceremony, we've updated the Honor of the Dead morph. So this is the one that it only heals one target, but it gives you mana back if you heal targets who are under 50% health. So we've updated this value, so it's more like 70% health. So you can be using this heal a lot more frequently to be getting the heal back. And in general, like especially if you're doing high-end PvE, like the bosses hit you really hard, and if you're not at full health all the time, like you're gonna get killed. So we wanted to just sort of more closely support the style of gameplay that was going on with the game. And then another change we made with that is there was a delay on the mana restore, where it took 2 seconds to start giving you the mana back. So if you were pressing it every second, like it would just keep delaying it, and you would never actually get any mana back. So now it'll start ticking as soon as it applies to you, as long as it's at the 70% or lower health.
So you could, in theory, apply it to different people and get that tick?
Yeah. Yeah, like I get one tick because I healed you, and then one tick because I healed Gina. I don't know why you guys are running around so low health when you're doing the show. Like, maybe we need some Cinnabons or something in here, but...
Cinnabons?
That gives you more health, right? Cinnabons?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Pretty sure I heard that somewhere on a commercial or something. So now the two morphs for the Rush Ceremony are an AoE heal or sort of a mana efficient heal. So it's now like, oh yeah, those are both legitimate choices and interesting things that I want to build my character for. One more class.
Sorcerers.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Nailed it.
Oh, everyone's doing the finger guns in the office.
I don't even know why that's a thing.
I don't either. I think Doug started it.
If someone's doing finger guns, I'm gonna just shoot right back.
All right. Let's make it happen.
So, yeah, and overall, like, we're trying to do as much buffing as possible. Because in general, it's just not fun to have your class nerfed, or you know, and have your favorite abilities nerfed. So I do have one nerf on here that I want to talk about. That's pretty major, which is Bolt Escape. but like Bolt Escape is just so crazy powerful right now. It definitely needs to be toned down a little bit. And in general, with our nerfs too, we try to use like kid gloves, you know, like we're very soft and gentle when we nerf things. So we actually had nerfed Bolt Escape previously to make it so that it was a 50% cost bonus if you recast it. We figured that probably wouldn't be enough, but we wanted to get it out there to players and try it out and see how it was. And you can still do a lot of Bolt Escaping, right? Like you can still do like 20 Bolt Escapes in a row based on, you know, what your magicka and regeneration and stuff like that is.
I'm laughing because half of chat is like, yay, and half of chat is just boos.
Yeah.
We got a lot of sorcerers playing this game, it sounds like. 50 sorcerers, 50 every other thing.
Hopefully at least this change will be seen as, okay, we get it, but go on.
It feels like a reasonable change. Like, we didn't go too far. So basically that 50% cost will now stack. So the first time you do it, it's 50%. The second time, it's 100%. And we've done a bunch of playtesting with this too, right? Because it was a pretty controversial change. Right. Because it's such a cool, popular ability.
And we don't want it to not be used.
Yeah. But in playtesting, generally, you'll cast it, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times, but then you don't want to pay the cost because it's gotten pretty high at that point. And it sort of encourages you to combine Bolt Escape with other abilities. So it's not
a bit more strategic.
Yeah, it's not like I just Bolt Escape and then like I'm good to go, right? Like now you actually like you Bolt Escape a couple times and then you'll do some roll dodging and then you'll maybe do some healing. And also, when you're playing as a sorcerer, right, you actually need to manage your mana pool a little bit more. Because if you spend all your mana, you know, doing offensive sort of stuff, then you're gonna run out and you're not going to have the capability to do this escape. Whereas, if you want to be like really efficient or have like really high mana regen, then you can still Bolt Escape like 7 times in a row if you're at pretty high mana.
Right.
So it's not going to be like sorcerers can just instantly disengage any fight whenever they think they're losing. It's just a little bit more strategic and interesting.
Okay.
We do have they're a pretty good list of sorcerer buffs. I'm just going to talk about.
This is like a roller coaster kind of.
My emotions.
Let's go back up.
I was thinking about trying to use like a hot air balloon analogy instead of a roller coaster, because like roller coaster is kind of cliche.
No.
But there'd be a lot of like popping of balloons.
I was gonna say, like, what happens with a hot air balloon? It just kind of goes up and then
when the air is shooting out of it. It kind of didn't work as well.
Okay.
So I thought
that's just all over the place.
Yeah. So I thought I wouldn't bring it up, but then I did anyways.
You did.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about it, and now it's awkward.
Yeah, but if you just patch the balloon up after you poke it, I think it'll be fine.
Moving on.
Back to sorcerers.
Okay, so sorcerers. We also wanted to support stamina sorcerers a little bit better. So what we ended up doing is with the lightning form ability, we gave it a morph that would be stamina based. So you would have an ability that would be high damage and give you defensive capabilities. So this is really great as a melee sorcerer. Your goal with this ability now is just to keep targets as close to you as possible all the time, so that you're constantly dealing the shock damage. And then you're also getting the additional armor and spell resistance benefits from this ability.
Could you see that be a good tanking?
Maybe? Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's still good for tanking like it was before, but now it's also good for stamina DPS and like in general, like if you're trying to do a stamina melee DPS, there's just a lot of like PBAOEs and like bosses are shooting stuff off and players are casting abilities, so you just kind of take a lot of incidental damage. So this sort of helps give you some protection against that while bolstering your damage at the same time. So it creates a really cool playstyle for them. And then in general, that it was also sort of like that was kind of a decent damage for magicka sorcerers as well, if they were sort of gutsy enough to stand there. So to help sort of compensate for that loss, we increased the damage of the Mage's Fury Execute by about 10%.
Oh, nice.
So that in general sort of boosted the magicka DPS of sorcerers to be more in line with some of the other classes. And they still get like a really cool, unique execute where it's full 28-meter range and they can cast it before the target's actually in execute range, and it, you know, sticks on them for a couple seconds and then explodes. So like, they have a cool, unique execute, and the damage is now more in line with the other classes. So that's working really well for the sorcerers. Whew.
That was a lot.
Man,
Yeah.
that was like a crazy hot air balloon ride or something.
So just to be clear, everything Eric talked about, that's just a sampling of what is going to be in the patch. That's not all the class fixes. I'm sure nobody else heard that except for us. So
sometimes you try to be really quiet.
Well, why does non-carbonated water make a carbonated sound?
I don't know. That was weird.
It still tastes like normal water.
Just flat water.
Yeah, it's very clean, crisp. So I'm enjoying this.
If you want to answer a couple questions here, it's not so much about classes, but more for weapons. That's cool. Are we getting to a weapon section?
Well, I had one thing actually that I didn't write down here. That was.
Wrobel's like, I'm gonna let you finish, but
I'm gonna let you finish, but I have to interject.
Yeah, go
some
for
more
it.
stuff.
Do it.
This is just a change I'm really excited about in general for weapons. Like, we made a number of changes for all the weapons, but just in general, I'm pretty pumped about the one we made for dual wield. The thrown dagger ability. We just straight up buffed it so that now it gives you major brutality.
Oh, nice.
So that sort of puts it more on par with two-handed weapons. So now you can choose to get your major brutality buff from either one of those, and you don't feel like, oh, I'm dual wielding, so that means I have to have a two-handed weapon.
Yeah.
So you can like dual wield and have a bow and still get this buff and still be doing damage, and now you have, you know, more sort
Should
of
we
ranged
role play?
options.
Should we try throwing this dagger at you and see what happens?
I mean, I'm pretty good with the roll dodges, you know, in game, but I don't know, like my real life roll dodge is not quite as good.
So somebody was asking why dual wielding doesn't increase your spell damage, or I'm sorry, why does it increase spell damage, and why wouldn't it increase your attack damage?
I believe this is the same question that people like love to ask. Because there's actually a couple builds we've seen where people will be dual wielding and casting like heal abilities, which I actually think is a really cool ability, a cool sort of type of thing to do.
Sure.
To create their own sort of like custom character, and it's like they are giving up sacrifices to be able to do this. Because if you're healing with dual wielding, for example, that means you can't do ranged attacks. You can only do melee attacks. And also then your heavy attacks are giving you stamina back instead of magicka, which generally as a healer, you want to be able to use those to get magicka back. And like with the restoration staff, for example, there's that passive that gives you extra mana back on top of that heavy attack. So there's some pros and cons of it, which is why I think it's like, yeah, you get like kind of more powerful heals, but you have like less sort of utility at the same time. So it's kind of an interesting trade-off. But in general, just all the weapons give you weapon damage and spell damage of equal amounts. So like this weapon gives me like 600 damage. It's both weapon and spell, and that's just sort of how weapons in our game work. And it's nice because it kind of supports more of like a hybrid type of style instead of making people like, you're a caster so you have to use the staff, or you're, you know, like a melee guy so you have to do this.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Kind of just your personal preference.
Okay.
Was
that the question?
It was a question.
Oh, okay.
There's more? That's it, right? There's just one?
Just one, that's all.
All right.
Do you want me to keep... I thought you were going to keep going.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's like one
Go
more
ahead.
quick thing I want to say.
Say
Which is just that we balanced the melee weapons to have a little bit more damage on them, just to compensate for the fact that if you're in melee range, you're not always going to be able to attack stuff, because it's like running away and moving and teleporting and whatever. So that's why specifically dual wielding has more spell damage than a staff, because it's a melee type of weapon.
Okay.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Are there any plans to increase bow damage specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't planning on talking about it, but yeah.
You don't have to. I mean,
we updated the volley ability, which was sort of the area effect one where it like rains arrows down. So this is kind of similar to what we did with the sorcerer, where we made lightning splash last longer to increase their damage. So we did the same thing with volley, because we didn't want people to just be sniping for like ridiculous amounts, because that's like that's already like a really high damage move that you
Yeah.
can do from range, and you get like the stealth
Venom arrow and
bonuses.
snipe, yeah.
Yeah, people are already doing tons of damage with that in PvP, so we wanted a solution that was good in PvE and good in PvP. So like, it's certainly still a useful ability in PvP when there's a big group of people and you can lay that down and it's hitting a whole bunch of them at the same time. But it's not like I can kill things so crazy fast now.
Right.
So now that helps even out bow damage with the other ones, you know, without causing any sort of weird balance issues.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So I think that probably does it for classes, but we know you've got more.
A little bit.
What's next?
A little bit.
More info.
I'm
Why
like
not?
really enjoying this war though. This is nice.
Pick up.
It's a treat.
Go
Good. It'll
for
give
it.
me time to kind of read through everything.
Yeah, that's some quality H2O.
Do you have any plans to ever make like a good bomb heal that's not class specific?
A bomb heal.
A bomb heal. That's what.
I'm assuming they
Somebody
mean
was asking.
ranged
Really
AoE.
high. They mean like really high value. Like bomb is like your health just like shoots up. So right now the ability kind of filling that role is on the restoration staff. There's the one that gives the damage shield, and the damage shield strength is sort of stronger the lower the health the guy is. So that sort of gives it a unique role of if it's like a bomb sometimes, but not all the time, and sort of like the longer you wait, the better it gets, which is kind of interesting. And I like that there's sort of like a different style using, you know, the staff than playing a Templar. And then that, since it's a damage shield, it actually synergizes really well with like Grand Healing, for example, because
Right.
that like keeps ticking over time and it'll heal them up. But you know, it takes a while for that to work. So if you put the shield on the target,
And then grand healing.
yeah, it gives them some sort of like buffer time for those Grand Healings to go off and heal them. So, I mean, I'm not 100% against it, but in general, yeah, I like the fact that there's sort of different styles you can get from the different classes and the different weapons.
Okay.
Cool. Well, carry on.
So now we're racial passives?
Well, yeah, I think
Yep.
people are pretty interested in hearing about racial passives.
Yeah, okay. So with racial passives, we didn't want to go making too many changes to something that's so permanent. Because you don't want to be, I built this character to be all Magicka, and I picked this class because it was a Magicka class, and now all the passives switch to the stamina-based stuff, and you're like, well, I don't want to make a whole new character, and I have no way to change this thing.
And we're already seeing some of that, yeah.
Yeah, so if we were going to make any dramatic changes to that, we'd want to wait until there's a feature that allows you to completely change what your race is, which is something we may be working on in the future. I've heard it's kind of requested.
A couple times.
But we didn't want to make some short-term changes just to sort of create more of a parity between the different races, and we wanted to try and reinforce the different themes that the races have. The problem is we sort of like had a spreadsheet where we looked at all the values, and some of the races are just like, well, their numbers are just like lower than the others, so like that's probably why people don't like being them as much. So we made a number of changes to the not as powerful or slightly weaker ones. So for Argonian, we wanted to keep the theme of regeneration and potion use, which was pretty interesting. So we just buffed up the amount of health, magic, and stamina you get when you use a potion, because that's a pretty cool, unique feature, and we want to keep that. But we just want it to be more sort of in line with the other passives.
Right.
The Nord's general theme is survivability, because they have the reduced damage taken and increased health. But their increased health was a lot lower than, say, Imperial or something like that. So we give them a good bump to the amount of bonus health that they get.
Well, that's cool.
The Khajiit, they have they're the only ones who have a critical strike bonus, which is a pretty cool, unique thing to have. But we did the math on like how much damage you get out of that, and it was like not great. So we just bumped the amount of critical strike chance they get from that. So they keep like the cool, like I have sharp claws kind of bonus thing going on there. And then Orc. This one was like a slightly larger change, but not really too big. So they had something called Swift, which increased their charge damage by 6%.
Yep.
Which was extremely specific. And it's not like you can make a charge build, because like you charge once and you're at the guy, you don't really want to charge again, and you're gonna get dizzy if you're just like charging all over the place.
It's just certain abilities.
Yeah. So we changed that to be, instead of 6% charge bonus, it's now a 4% melee damage bonus.
Oh, nice.
So it's slightly smaller, but it applies to, you know, like your melee attacks and your, you know, your stamina attacks, and it's just a lot more useful and sort of feels orky, where you're, you know, like
feels orky.
You know, yeah, in there using those hard hitting melee attacks.
Great.
So.
And all these changes you're talking about are coming with the next
major
update. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we've been making changes for quite a long while. It just, we haven't gotten the major update out, but it's coming pretty soon now, right?
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good about that.
We will be talking about it on
July 13th.
July 13th.
Oh, where's the finger guns? Okay. Well, is that it? No?
No.
Let's keep going.
No, there's way more.
No.
Come on, guys. Thought that was gonna be it.
What's next? How about Mundus Stone buffs?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. So Mundus Stones, sort of a mix of like internal feedback and developers, as well as we got some really cool data from our business intelligence group, where they were able to show us what were the most popular stones and how many of each people had picked at like the lower levels and the higher levels and stuff. So it was kind of funny, because like the lady was really popular, which is like the first one most people come to. So they just like get the lady and they're like,
just stick with it.
I'm
Cool.
good. Like I
Good to
got
go.
one of these. I'm happy with that. So at first we're like, wait, do we need to like nerf the lady? Because like everyone's using that. And we're like, wait, no. It's just because it's the first one.
Sure, right.
Just like people are still using it. And the other two most popular ones were the Mage in the Tower, which gave you max magicka and max stamina. And we looked through the numbers on that, and compared to like the weapon damage or like the crit or whatever, those gave you a bigger damage increase, and they gave you an increase to your max pools, so you could cast more abilities, and they did more damage than any other Mundus Stone. So like, yeah, of course you guys are gonna pick those. Those are just awesome, right? So we left those at the level of effectiveness they were at, and then we just increased the bonuses that you got from the other ones. So they'll give you like more critical strike or more weapon damage. So now it's a legitimate choice of, do I want to pick the mage and be able to activate a few more abilities, or do I want to pick the one that gives me the spell power and be able to do more damage with those. So you'll be sort of like using those to adjust your character based on what gear you're using. Because in general, when you find a piece of gear, you want to use the thing with the highest stats on it, right? But you might still want to keep a certain amount of magicka regen, right? So you can switch to the magicka regen stone pretty quickly just by popping in there and clicking on that stone.
Yeah, so it's kind of to fill that what deficiency you feel like you have.
Yeah.
Or what you want to boost more.
Exactly. Or yeah, you just want to go really hard into magic regen or spell power, and you can just do that. And then with the Serpent Mundus Stone, that one gave health regen, which is right now one of like the least popular stats, and that's definitely something we're looking at adjusting in the future. But in general, it didn't make sense that we had a magicka regen stone, the Atronach, but we didn't have a stamina one, so we changed this over to stamina. So now there's sort of like a better parity for
that's
for
definitely
magicka
been asked
and
for a
stamina
lot.
builds. So yeah, I think that'll be, because that was like that one was really at the bottom. There were like 5 people, and they probably accidentally clicked on it or something. So now like that's legitimate. Like you're gonna be pretty interested in that.
Great.
Mundus Stones.
Mundus Stones.
Do we have any
Good
questions
one.
about that? No?
Yes.
Okay.
What? No, I don't think you're making this up. There's no
Nope, there's
questions.
one here from Shade of... Oop. Man, I did this last time. I keep wanting to say Shade of Skin, but it's Shades of Kin. Will you
that's a
ever...
tricky one.
I know. Words. Will you ever change
They're better than numbers, though. Oh.
This is true. I have...
Those will throw you for a loop.
It actually does. I always switch around my last 2 numbers.
Oh, that can cause a lot
So,
of
like, I've
problems.
made wrong phone calls before. Like, I'll type in something, be like, oh, that's not it. And yeah, I don't know. Brains. Shades of Kin was asking, will you ever change the steed to stamina recovery instead?
The steed is the movement speed one. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool having a unique bonus like movement speed.
And it matches the name. I mean, steeds are fast.
Yeah, steeds run. That kind of makes sense.
They
We're
run.
certainly not opposed to making more adjustments to them. So we'll just sort of, keep monitoring what everyone's picking now and seeing what things are more popular and seeing if something needs adjustment. And like, potentially, yeah, maybe on steed we would put the health regen on there. So then it's movement speed and health regen, where it's like, oh, now this is like a really cool sort of utility thing that I could get. Yeah. People like combination things, right?
Yeah.
Like you get the fries and the hamburger kind of thing.
Combos are good.
Indeed. Do you want to chat at all about the LOS checks? I know Brian Wheeler kind of touched on it the last time he was here.
But every time it came up during the week before last ESO Live, we were like, that's an Eric question.
Yep. Well, here you are.
I
made it.
As promised.
Yeah, I was watching the show. It was actually funny. I was like trying to keep count of like how many times
we had to say that's an Eric question.
Yeah. Like I turned it on and it was like I was a minute in and I already had like 2 marks. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna need like more paper.
We kept reminding everybody. It's a great question for Eric, who will be on the next show.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So let's hear about the line of sight checks that are changes that are happening.
Yeah. So like he was saying, pretty much like all the abilities were basically doing 2 line of sight checks, which was hitting the physics server pretty hard and causing a number of performance issues.
In Cyrodiil.
Yeah, in Cyrodiil. So we have all the line of sight checks on the area effect abilities because those were sort of like the main offenders. And that'll be, we got that in and that's in for PTS. So we're definitely going to be tracking the performance metrics on PTS to see how that helps. And then in the future, we also have a number of specific, we identified some other types of abilities that do different things to the character that also have a pretty large number. So that's sort of like a more complicated programmatic fix that we're going to be looking to in the future. But like we have identified some areas that are causing latency issues and sort of like the first cut of this is we want it to have as low impact on gameplay as possible. Because some people had said crazy things like, let's just take line of sight check off everything. And I was like, well, wait, let's like start with a slower, more reasonable approach and sort of see how things perform. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how things go on PTS with these changes.
So you mentioned how we want to kind of test all this out when it's on PTS. Why don't we just use bots in-house?
Great question.
I have them.
So we actually do have bots, and we have done a number of tests and simulations. But there's a couple of problems with that. First off, the bots don't act, exactly like the players do. Like the players are moving around and doing things in a lot different way the bots do, and also with the bots, we're doing it on the development server, which has different
live
hardware.
environment's a little different.
Yeah, and it works a little bit different in that way, and also when there's a lot of things that are happening to the server over like a long period of time, like when the server's been up for a couple of days and players have been hammering on it, like different things can kind of happen there too. Like it'll lag, and then like the lag will sort of stay there for a while, even though the thing that was causing it isn't happening anymore. It like takes a while for the processes to spin down. So
okay. So in short, this should help with
and like bots were helpful, and we were able to identify some of the issues that were moving forward with trying to fix those.
Okay, great. So what do we got next?
There's a couple of
Nernhone, dodge roll,
major combat mechanics we can talk about.
Yep.
Why not?
Okay, let's start with good old dodge roll.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
The dodge roll spamming.
Was that like uncomfortable cough?
That was like, I wish I had thought about taking a drink of water before I started talking.
You can do it.
Oh, go for it.
We'll entertain in the meantime.
Can you guys like do a...
No,
we're not going to do that. But
if you could do some like dagger dodging, that would be really exciting for the
when
people.
you leave the show, you should dodge roll out of here.
Yeah.
Careful.
I'm trying to drink here. Don't wait for that. Yeah, I don't know if the AV equipment would necessarily appreciate that because I'm pretty sure there would be some casualties.
You'd probably aim for that way, and your legs
Get the
would
light
hit.
the monitor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There would be. I don't know if I would be the casualty or it would, but there would definitely be casualties.
I mean, it'd be funny. It'd be very
That's
entertaining.
True. We definitely need to be able to turn the camera to get the whole dodge on there too.
You can do that.
Oh, we have the technology?
We can do
Fantastic.
It does move.
Very cool. I didn't know cameras could do that. So dodge roll. They're basically
Everyone's like, do it now.
We'll just stop the show and do stunts.
take it to the next level. Can we do some parkour maybe?
Why not? You can jump out back here, knock down a wall, just
Jump
go
out of a
crazy.
hot air balloon.
Don't be ridiculous.
Okay,
Dodge roll.
dodge roll. We're back.
Serious time.
We're back here. Okay, so there's a number of builds where people will just roll dodge like 10 plus times in a row. You just like dodge, 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 and no one can hit you because you're dodging all their attacks, and there's no really sort of like counterplay to that. So we did a similar treatment to that we did with Bolt Escape, where there's now a scaling cost of 33% each time you dodge roll. Because the builds where you could do this sort of dodge roll were still highly effective at dealing damage. So
There was no trade-off.
Yeah, we wanted to be like, well, if you invest really heavily in stamina, then you can dodge roll a whole bunch, but you'll do low damage. And right now it was like, you can do a lot of dodge rolling and do a lot of damage. So we just kind of wanted to reinforce that trade-off by keeping this in here. And we kept it pretty low at 33% because we didn't want, people, who were casters and didn't have a very big stamina pool to be like slighted in that they would, they could do like one roll dodge and then they'd just be out. So that's why we kept the value the same, for doing one, but then it scales up, but like a little bit smaller rate than other abilities.
Okay.
And we also added a new effects. So there's a glowing thing around your feet so that oh, okay, the cost thing is worn off once you stop seeing that, so then you can start roll dodging again for
Is
cheap
that
again.
something other players can see on you, or is it just client side?
That's a good
Do you know?
question. Like, I hope it's client side. I didn't actually check, but that's like a really good idea. So yeah, I'm gonna write down a note about that with my imaginary pen, and then with my real pen later.
Mental notes.
Yeah, it's all up here. And then the other sort of major combat mechanic change we made was to block casting, or sort of blocking in general, I guess, but it affects block casting and some other things. So with blocking, there's a lot of issues where tanks, when they were fighting a boss, they didn't want to ever get hit with a full hit from the boss. That was really high damage, so they were just holding block the whole time. And it's not very interactive, and it's not really that fun either. And then people in PvP, partly because the burst damage was so high, was one of the reasons they were holding block all the time. But in general, block is just good. So
there's kind of a mentality of if you're not blocking when you're in close range, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you're gonna have a real bad day. You're gonna be seeing death recap quite a bit. So the update we made to that to help sort of resolve some of these issues is that you no longer regenerate stamina while you're blocking. And this is specifically referring to the stamina regeneration stat.
Okay. So you can still take a potion.
Yeah, if drinking potion will give it to you. If you do use the Templar synergy to grab the spear, you can still get it. If you're a Dragon Knight and you cast an Earth and Heart ability, you still have the passive that'll give you some stamina back, or like Battle Roar, for example. So it's still possible to get stamina back, but stamina regeneration will not. So you actually want to wait until you see a big hit coming and put up your shield to block that, and then put it down as fast as you can, because you want to make sure you're getting that stamina back as much as possible. Because in general, you just kind of like your stamina is more of a scarce resource now that it's not regenerating when you're blocking. And then it's block casting, you run out really fast if you're a mage doing that, so you want to make sure you're doing it at the right time, and you're sort of like really conserving your stamina, or potentially you want to be like, oh, let me actually get more stamina so I can hold it for longer. So that's and we did a bunch of testing to make sure, like, oh yeah, like the content is still completable with this, because like it certainly makes it harder for tanks, right? Because they can't just sort of maintain this 100% uptime.
But we're making improvements to taunt, aren't we?
Yes, for tanks.
Look at that segue.
That was a really good segue.
That was a good one.
I'm proud of you. That was fantastic. So taunt, the taunt immunity is sort of specifically the issue here that we're talking about, where if you hit the same monster with 3 taunts in a row, they then become immune to taunts. And the previous taunt that was on there will stick, and it'll stay, but once that wears off, the monster just sort of runs away and attacks other monsters. And specifically, it was kind of an issue with the timing, where the taunt immunity was like 12 seconds and the taunt was 15. So there was a 3-second window where you had to re-taunt right in there, or he was going to run off and hit someone. And just sort of the way we design the taunt abilities, you kind of want to use them frequently. Like they're pretty low cost, and they do like pretty, like, not awesome damage, but like that's pretty decent damage, and like it debuffs their armor and it buffs yours. So like you want to be puncturing the monsters like a good amount of the time. And the goal of the taunt immunity system was we just didn't want to have 2 people standing on the opposite side of a room and then they just take turns
ping-ponging,
right?
yeah, taunting the monster, and then he never actually attacks something because he's just spending his whole time running back and forth. So we updated the taunt immunity so that it looks specifically for your taunts, and then it sees if another player has taunted it, and then it'll apply the immunity. So you won't have any immunity problems if you're the only one taunting a monster. So that's that much more closely aligns with sort of the goal of the taunt system.
Yeah, that's good. That should help with a lot of the confusion of why did the taunt not work?
Yeah, or like, what's this dude doing? Like, I'm taunting him as much as I can, and he's just like over here killing a guy.
Yeah,
like, that's weird.
Do you think you'll ever be able to implement some sort of taunting in PvP? Like maybe a damage debuff, or look at that, he's thinking.
Well, I don't know if I want to spill the beans.
Spoilers!
But I'll give like a little
hint.
little tiny teaser.
We won't tell. It's a secret.
Hopefully no one important is watching to hear them spill the beans, right? So there's this spellcrafting system you may have heard of, and there's an ability similar to that. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while.
But it is still being worked on.
But it's still being worked on, and that is definitely something that is very likely to show up if we were not to make that content.
I'm excited. Or not excited. Nothing's happening.
Yep, I didn't say anything at all about that. No one heard anything.
So there's some complaints, we'll say, about no stamina regeneration while blocking, saying that that's going to make like veteran Dragonstar Arena pretty difficult.
Yeah.
It's going to make some of the trials pretty difficult.
Yeah, so we have had our group like in there testing all this content to make sure it was still completable.
Yeah.
It is definitely a
it's not, you just can't.
Sorry.
Good luck.
Sorry. But yeah, there's also a lot of, ability changes in general we've made that sort of help increase the power level of the classes, and just overall all changes that should help. So it's definitely, yeah, like you gotta like change the way you think a little bit about certain different things, and potentially, yeah, you're using more sort of these support abilities to restore stamina.
And when all these changes go in, we are looking at wiping the leaderboards so that everybody has an even kind of starting ground.
Right.
And there aren't people on the leaderboard who may have had an advantage perhaps before the changes went in. So hopefully that will help a little too.
Yeah, but it is a pretty dramatic change. So we spent a lot of time testing it out, and we're pretty happy about it. But we definitely like to hear your feedback about everything. And actually, there was one last thing I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
And then you can berate me with questions.
Tons of, look, we've got all the questions.
All the questions.
You came prepared.
I didn't. I'm just doing it live.
Well, they have, yeah, I mean, they have good questions too.
Yep, there'll be live questions and questions from the forums.
Okay, we got everything here.
Yep,
we
questions.
prepared.
We don't discriminate against questions, large or small. We believe in equality for
Live
all
or
questions.
pre-chosen, whatever.
Yep. So the last thing is Nerdhound.
Up. Everyone in chat even said it before. Nerdhound? Nerdhound?
Nerdhound.
So,
No, it's coming. It's coming.
there it is.
Yeah, so this was like basically kind of a bug with Nerdhound where it was giving you that spell increase instead of just on that specific armor piece. It was giving it all of your spell resistances for everything was getting increased by like 24%
Yep,
or so.
all the Magicka builds in Cyrodiil are very aware.
Yeah. So yeah, our fix to that is now it just increases the specific piece you put it on, which makes using it a lot more interesting because it's like, oh yeah, now maybe as a light armor guy, I want to have a piece of heavy armor and put Nerdhound there. Like it matters where you put the Nerdhound, and also if you want to get max spell resistance, like you have to fully commit to putting Nerdhound on stuff instead of like, oh yeah,
There's a bit of a sacrifice.
I'll just put it on like 2 pieces and then I got like, max resistance to spells. So we're definitely pretty happy with that change because it just makes it fits
what
the
was
design
intended.
intentions of what we
Right.
wanted, which was this would give you an increase to your spell resistance, but not like you could just max it super easy, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Well, I think we should start collecting some questions. If you have any, if you want something clarified, go ahead and ask in chat. Before we kind of get into questions, I have a question.
Really?
Well, it's for everybody else. We've seen a lot of times on the forums, somebody will say, well, this has been bugged. Why don't you just fix it? Why don't you just put it in the incremental patch? Why do we have to wait so long for these things to come out? So do you want to kind of explain the whole process behind that? No? Okay. All right. Nope.
Okay.
But for real.
Yeah. So anytime we make a change and we want to put it on the live, that's basically duplicating the amount of effort not only that the design team has to make, but also the QA team has to make. So we could get changes to live, but then this huge list of changes that we're making for the next update would be half as small because we would have spent so much time putting things on the live, right?
Because you have to do an entire build each time.
Right. And we have to like put the data in multiple places, and then QA needs to test it in multiple places. It's also a little bit more risky because if we just put it on the live, we haven't had a lot of time to test it.
Yeah.
Whereas a bunch of the changes we've had have been on dev for a long time, so we've got to really check them out in a bunch of different situations to make sure they're balanced, and also to sort of make sure they fit in with the theme of the overall, all the changes we want to do, because we want to make sure that there's, a good number of changes for each class. Like, we don't want to, just address like a whole bunch of sorcerer changes and then there was no changes to the Dragonite. So we sort of can have a cohesive picture of all the changes that we're making.
And we generally do hotfix whatever we can when we can, right?
Yeah, so in terms of should we hotfix this versus is it in the next incremental, is generally is this a bug that's significantly hampering the functionality of like this ability just doesn't work?
Right.
Then we would hotfix it versus, well, this is a feature that just sort of like makes the design a bit better. It's more fun to use. The balance is a little bit better. That's the sort of thing we wait.
Unless something needs to be redesigned, then it typically goes into one of the incrementals.
Yeah, for major issues.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
we have a whole bunch of questions here.
You can start.
Okay.
I'm going to start sorting through these.
So this is from Denaya on the official forums. Kind of a more general question. What is, in your opinion, the change the community has most asked for?
Oh yeah, this little question. This is funny because I don't think that there is one specific change that they were asking for. It's more, there were a ton of things that they were asking for, and we tried to do as much of the high impact things that they were asking. And generally of the things that I went over, the racial passives were highly requested. The Nernhone changes were highly requested.
Yeah.
People talk about serial performance every now and again. So yeah, we are pretty aware of the sort of like the major hot button issues and doing as much as we can to address those.
Okay.
There's a question here from Erlex. Hi, Erlex.
Oh, I know that
Hey,
dude.
Erlex.
He streams like all
Sam.
the time.
Yeah,
Hey dude, what's up,
hi.
man?
He was asking, is there any change to routes since now you can't dodge roll them constantly and you can't turn to do attacks like biting jabs in a route?
Wait, I was.
Did you get all that?
I was like reading
No.
a note, and I like have no idea what you said.
They were passing
I remember
notes.
the Erlex
You're
part.
passing notes in class.
Story of my life.
I was like really excited about that guy asking me a question.
Okay, so again, Erlex. Hi, Erlex. Is there any change to routes since now you can't dodge roll them constantly and you can't turn to do attacks like biting jabs in a route?
We don't have anything right now going into to update 7 for that, but that's certainly something we can take a look at trying to change. Yeah, the sort of the issue is like you want to hit a guy behind you, but you're rooted, so you can't just immediately turn around and hit him. Yeah, that's something we'll look into. It's a good question.
Cool.
It sounds like that would be something that would be really good to get PTS feedback on as well.
Indeed.
Okay. We have one here from Attorney at Law.
Oh yeah, that guy had a
that
couple
guy.
questions actually. Yeah, he had some really good specific ones too.
He's one of our ambassadors now.
Yeah.
Will we
Does he get like a sash that's his ambassador?
He
gets
a
a
special
cool title
avatar?
and avatar.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
Will we see the Alliance Wars support and assault skill lines branched out further to help provide longer-term goals for earning Alliance ranks?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I guess I didn't put that. We'll talk about this change. Okay. Well, so one of the changes for this update is we actually moved two of the new ability, the AVA abilities from the last update down in rank. So like Vigor is a powerful ability that like a lot of stamina users want to have as sort of like a key ability in there, and so we're glad we added that and people really liked it, but it takes a really long time to get to Alliance rank 10 to be able to unlock that ability. So there's sort of a balance of like we don't want to spend a lot of time making an ability and then only like 0.01% of the population gets to use the ability and it's really fun and cool. But also, yeah, we definitely want to have things for you guys to work on and progress towards. And there's been a number of complaints of people who are like, I'm a PvEer and some of these PvP abilities are really cool, but I don't want to have to spend like 40 hours to be able to like do my trial.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of factors that go into putting abilities into AVA. And in general, I think adding more cosmetic type of things, like a sweet costume or, like I can do this cool emote because I'm like a soldier general in the army, so I have some sort of like hand gesture I can do that no one else can do.
That's definitely been asked for, especially in the loot bags you get at the end of a campaign, even just some fun stuff.
I got more to talk about the campaign rewards at some point, but not today. But yeah, I definitely think we would like to add more stuff to support that, but probably not abilities. And if it was an ability, it would need to be like very Cyrodiil niche specific. So maybe some like Cyrodiil specific group thing that like interacted with like healing or like a mechanic that's sort of a lot more prevalent in AVA, like a healing debuff or something like that. Whew, too much water.
Here's a question from chat. They were asking if you plan on working on an area of effect type of taunt that affects multiple targets.
Oh, geez. This question again. People love this question. They really want
AoE taunts. Yeah.
So our gameplay, we very specifically don't want AoE taunts because all players have tools that allow them to deal with ads, because everyone can roll dodge and everyone can block, and it feels a lot more interactive and interesting if, as a damage dealing class, I actually have to interface with the monsters instead of like, oh yeah, I'm just going through my rotation where I'm like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 kind of thing of like, oh, sometimes like they're gonna come attack me and then I gotta like, like weapon swap and then like use an ability that'll make me move faster or try to get out of this guy's way or stun him or something like that. So it actually creates sort of a lot more of a dynamic sort of combat area, and so then the role of the tank more specifically is to identify the highest threat targets and try to tank a couple of those. So we want there to be, it to be important to have a tank in the group, because they can definitely really help with mitigating damage, but also as a DPS guy, you're also sort of interfacing a little bit more, and you have an interactive experience with the monsters in the battle.
Okay. This one is from, I hope I say this right, Sakadon on the official forums. When will the Arcane Well and other similar champion system passives that are currently potentially having issues be fixed?
Next major update.
Yeah?
Yep. We got
Great.
a whole bunch of fixes in for those. They're coming to a store near you. Or a live server near you.
Great. All right. Well, that was easy.
That was easy. With abilities such as proximity detonation and steel tornado being spammed in large coordinated numbers, are you looking at reducing damage of consecutive abilities or anything to combat this?
I mean, in general, that's sort of where we want people using AoEs is in large group situations like that. And a number of the sort of changes we've made with the AoE caps was just sort of help get people spread out, because it's like, yeah, I could join this huge Zerg, but like there's a whole bunch of AoEs being fired in here, so
Right.
maybe I'll stand back a little bit. So that's actually the whole point of those abilities, is to be good in those specific situations and not be good in a one-on-one fight. And actually a cool change we've made to the proximity detonation and the other versions of that ability is that the more targets it hits, the more damage it does now. So the base damage is a little bit lower, but if you're hitting a bunch of guys, it's going to end up being more effective than it was before.
Okay, cool. We've got one by Olsborg on the official
All right.
forums.
Yeah, that's totally a thing.
So why don't Nightblades and Sorcerers have an instant cast burst heal like Breath of Life or Dragon's Blood? And are there any are there any plans, pardon me, to remedy this imbalance?
Yeah, that's a really great question, actually. And I like that one because that's exactly the kind of thing that players ask for all the time, because it's like, oh, this class has this thing, why don't I have this thing?
Yeah.
And that's almost like the reason we have classes, right? Is so that each class has a different play style. They have different things they can do.
Sure.
So then you actually want to like roll an alt and be like,
a
oh yeah, let
meaningful
me try out this
choice.
guy's set of abilities. Let me try out this guy's set of abilities. It certainly makes the game harder to balance because everyone has sort of pros and cons and stuff. But it also makes fighting the different classes and stuff a lot more interesting because they have a different set of tools and a different, selection of things they're gonna do to you. Like the sorcerers have Bolt Escape, which is a really cool iconic ability, and like that's part of what makes playing a sorcerer feel really awesome, right? And maybe you can't catch up to him, but you have a powerful self heal, or like the Nightblade has Shadow Cloak, which is a really cool escape, but it like works in a different way, in a better way now because made some updates to it. So it just gives the game a lot more flavor, and it makes it a lot more interesting when I'm fighting, each of the different classes. I have to sort of like be prepared for them to use different sort of tools and abilities against me. So it just makes it more interesting when I'm fighting those classes, and it makes it more interesting when I'm playing them, and it just makes everything. I don't want to like homogenize all the classes and make it so that they all can do the exact same thing, because that's just not as interesting or fun.
Yep. Okay.
So here's a question from chat. Will there still be a taunt timer for taunt effectiveness with all these new taunt changes? And if so, how will they work?
So it'll remain that it pretty much remains working the same way it did before, where you taunt a guy and it'll last for 15 seconds. And if you have other people taunting him, they will hit the same taunt immunity timer. That'll last for 12 seconds. So all that stuff is basically the same. It's just if you're just taunting the guy, you just won't ever hit the immunity if you're by yourself taunting him.
Okay.
Okay.
This is by Emma Einjung?
Yeah.
Yunjung on the official forums. Could you please remove the cooldown on heals from the sorcerer spell Surge and its morphs? The introduction of this cooldown with the update 6 patch has crippled the aggressive on-target playstyle of many sorcerers, including this one, particularly in intense AoE situations.
Yes, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Couple of parts to that. So first of all, we did make some buffs to Surge in this latest update, so that it's sort of more in line with the momentum ability.
Okay.
So we decreased its cost, and I believe we increased the duration too. So it's more akin to the momentum ability. So you don't feel like you're just getting a less powerful version. Specifically, we didn't want to make it so that you could just sort of like AoE farm and just sort of like have max health while there's, you know, like 10 guys attacking you.
Right.
So there's certainly some balance concerns we had there. And it felt like in general, this would be a good candidate for, this is good when I'm fighting one guy because I can get healed a lot. I certainly understand the concerns of you don't control what attack does the critical strike.
Right.
So it could
It's a
be
bit unpredictable.
Yeah, so it could be I wind up and do a huge spell and that's a crit, right? Or it could be I have a dot on the guy and the dot
And
ticked
that's what-
right before,
Yeah.
and then that takes the, you know, uses it up basically, so then I don't get a big heal. So we're definitely like sensitive to that feedback, and something we could look at doing is making it so that like anytime you crit you would get a flat amount of healing. So then you wouldn't feel like it was getting used up by the dodge.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so we made some changes to this. We're going to kind of see how it plays, but we're definitely aware of it, and we're going to continue to iterate if it feels like it needs more changes.
Okay.
It's Desolations with a Z.
Like right now, or?
No, that's the guy asking
Okay.
the question.
All right, had some concerns.
He's asking when werewolves are going to be made more viable in PvP.
Okay. That's an interesting
No,
question.
there's some changes to werewolves.
Yeah,
going in.
I guess specifically, the major changes coming to werewolf and vampire are that we reduce the amount of bonus damage they take from their respective elements. So
Right.
instead of a 40% penalty, it's going to be 25% from poison damage for werewolves and fire from
fire.
vampires.
Yep.
Because that feels like this is still like a penalty, but it's like a more reasonable one instead of like, oh, I get hit with a snipe and I just die.
Yeah, you're just screwed.
And that'll definitely help with vampire characters in DSA too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fire attacks in the game.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be an improvement. But yeah, I think we've definitely continued to improve werewolves throughout sort of the course of the game. I remember when it first launched and it took 1,000 ultimate to go into werewolf form, and now it's down around like 300 or something.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more reasonable there. We've done a number of things with the passives where like the duration is now increased every time you get hit. So if you're actively engaged in combat and getting hit a whole bunch, you can basically be a werewolf forever, which is pretty cool. So we'll definitely keep sort of monitoring werewolf and seeing how people are liking it. But and we added the new werewolf abilities, you know, in a prior update as well. So like.
Yep.
I think werewolf has come a long way, and definitely feeling a lot better about where it's at right now. But
It's
yeah,
definitely a lot more desirable than it used to be. This is by Philip666. Hi, I love active combat in ESO, but sometimes skills like pets, toggle skills, and buffs feel like they need some work. They're a bit too passive right now when you use one every 20 seconds or less. And do you have any ideas or future changes in regards to these type of skills to improve their gameplay?
it's a really great question too. I couldn't have handpicked it better myself. So, a couple things with this question. First of all, the Grim Focus ability we're talking about with the Nightblade is an example of a new buff we added that feels more active.
Yep.
And we really like the way that plays. But also, with our game, there's a very diverse set of people who play the game. We have, you know, like the really hardcore people that can do veteran Dragonstar Arena, you know, and then we have some people who just, you know, like they just want to do quests and they just, you know, are having a fun time doing all the quests in the game and they don't want to, you know,
World bosses. And,
yeah, they don't want to do any sort of group stuff. They're just, you know, having a good time in the Elder Scrolls, and we want to sort of support all people playing the game. So the nice thing about those toggle abilities is people can still get a power increase for their character by having it active, but they don't have to manage quite as many buttons. So there's sort of a trade-off there, and for like the unstable familiar, for example, we do have the morph choice where you can either get the tanky pet that has more health, the Clanfear, or you can get the volatile familiar, which allows you to activate it, and then the guy explodes and he does, you know, damage, and he does an AoE stun, which is kind of cool. So right now we're happy with having a few of those in the game, but we don't want to, you know, we don't want to have too many. So we're
Go
trying to
full the other spectrum.
So we're trying to kind of keep a balance, and like doing it with a morph is a really cool way, because then you can morph it of, oh, I want the active style, or I want the sort of more passive style, just whatever sort of fits your style, or, you know, if you just want to have the tanky pet because it like, and then you want to do some heals, like, you know, there's a lot of different options and combinations which we like.
Okay.
Are there any changes coming to Radiant Destruction or Radiant Oppression?
Yes.
Okay.
Next.
Next one.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly everything that's in the patch notes, but we did, like, there was a bug, I believe, where like the first tick of it couldn't critical strike, so we fixed that. And then in general, we looked at like the total damage per second you could do with the ability.
I think that's what people are
and
concerned
like
about.
the damage per second of this ability was pretty much as high as like a normal ability that you could just spam, like Lava Whip or Force Shock or Uppercut or something like that. And that was just like if you were getting the 40% bonus for being at full mana, you were just sort of like doing the normal high ability damage. And then once they got low health, then you started doing execute damage on top of that. So it was like, yeah, you just like use this ability all the time, and it's just like crazy good. So yeah, we slightly decreased the damage a little bit. So it's like, it's really good when they're in execute, but if they're not in execute range, it's not really the ability you want to be casting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I have a really long one from Eloa here.
Ooh.
And hopefully she's on. Hi, Eloa. Since Update 6, hybrid builds are a lot less desirable and competitive. Do you have any plan to adapt and balance the game to allow and encourage this type of gameplay? This could be done via itemization, or instead of having 2 morphs by class spells and weapon abilities, you could have 3 morphs. One always using stamina, one always using magicka. This would allow for more possibilities, more choices for players that they would like. For example, to play a magicka build with a bow or a stamina build with a staff. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think hybrid builds are really cool, and they just sort of increase the different sort of options and combinations, and like the cool thing about our game is the flexibility in like mixing and matching and being like, oh yeah, I like this thing and I like this thing, can I combine them together, and then what will that end up doing for my character? In terms of doing it on the ability side, that's certainly possible, but adding a third morph is a lot of stuff to support.
Sure. So
what we're currently looking at is trying to support that on more of a, from the itemization standpoint.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too much into the itemization changes because
that's going to be another chat.
Yeah. I'll be talking about that in some future updates. But we definitely are pro hybrid. You know, and being fuel efficient and stuff like that.
It seems like some of the changes you talked about today were very based on diversifying builds and giving people more options.
Yep, it's all about giving people more options, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we have some new sets that we're looking at that will sort of allow this hybrid, as well as maybe some, you know, potential enchantments and things like that people can get on their gear to be more hybrid specific.
Okay, sounds good.
I was trying to talk about hybrid cars, by the way, but I think it didn't quite got lost in translation a little bit there.
This might be 2 questions rolled into one.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
It's a hybrid question.
What?
Oh! Man, you were just hitting these transitions really smoothly today.
Get me out of here. Okay, when can we expect a fix with sharpened, ignoring 100% armor with maces, and each dual-wield weapon getting full 2-handed trait stat?
Yeah, I think I had heard... I think we have a fix for like half of that coming in with Bait 7, and the other thing, we need a little bit more investigation, but it's definitely on our radar right now.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. We've got a question here from Gareth Jolnier. Hi Hi, my question is whether
It's
or
a
not...
powerful name.
It is. He must be a Nord. My question is whether or not we will be seeing a stamina morph for the Dragon Knight's Lava Whip ability.
So in general, with converting abilities from stamina and magicka, it's cool because stamina gets more options, but you're also taking an option away that the magicka builds had.
Yeah.
So we're trying to be really careful with this and only do it for a couple abilities for each class and sort of like see how it plays and see how people are feeling about it. Overall, I think most of it has been really well received and people are liking the additional flexibility. So I'm not 100% against that, but...
And try to be careful with it.
Yeah, try to be careful. And in general, like, the Dragon Knight has a lot of pretty good options for stamina abilities, with, like, fire damage abilities. So yeah, it's something we can look into in the future, but it's also, like, playing pretty well, so we're kind of okay with it.
Okay.
Do you know off the top of your head if you're making any changes to Agony?
Making any changes to Agony? Yeah, we are. I'm pretty sure we.
I'm kind of putting you on the spot. Sorry.
This is a month's worth of work that he's going back through.
Yeah, there was like console, and we've been doing stuff the whole time, and I don't know necessarily if this is on live or not. So I'm just gonna say the most recent change that we made to Agony,
Go
and
ahead.
then we'll see if that's like actually on live right now or not, because there's so many changes. But we made one where the bonus damage on Agony scales up a lot faster, because before it was 2 or 3% or something increase every second, and like we bumped it up to 5. So now you don't have to wait as long to get a good payoff on the bonus damage it does when it explodes, and if you do wait the full time, it's like, whoa, that was really worth my time, and I'm glad I did that.
Okay.
So I think that's the change you're looking for, hopefully.
All right.
Yeah, they're
it's my
doing
turn.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Okay, cool.
Joy Division. This is a question from him. He actually had a lot of really good questions. The adjustments made to Wall of Elements in Update 6 were a bit too drastic and have rendered the skill uncompetitive as the damage is too low and walls overlap or cancel each other out. Are there any plans on revisiting this and other misses from Update 6?
Yeah, so in general, that's kind of what we focus on every update is we're trying to bring the, lesser abilities sort of up to the level.
It's like, okay, we see what the feedback from the last update. Now, how can we do to adjust?
Yeah, and we're just sort of always improving all the abilities and trying to make them all competitive and all awesome. So specifically with the wall, yeah, we didn't want that ability being spammed over and over again, so it's like you can only have one wall down at a time, but now it's like, well, damage is like kind of okay, so we increased the duration from 4 seconds to 6 seconds on it, which is ends up being a pretty significant damage per cast, right? Because that's 50% longer, so you're getting a lot more damage from it.
Sure.
And also you don't have to spend as much time casting it, so you can be doing a lot more attacks or whatever in between while you're laying down the walls. So that's been a pretty good increase for that one.
Okay.
Are we doing anything about shield stacking sorcerers?
The quick answer is no.
Okay.
There is a longer answer where in general we're sort of aware of sort of what's going on with the metagame and the most popular builds. Like I was talking about, we had adjusted the roll dodge so that people can't just roll dodge forever or streak forever. In terms of, shield stacking, it would be kind of like weird and hard to communicate if certain types of abilities, like we would need a category for them and then need to like communicate that and then like show you that they weren't stacking. Like it gets to like kind of fuzzy, and in general we want people, like if they want to focus on a really survivable build, then they should be able to do that. So we've got some item sets coming up that have to deal with the metagame. I don't want to get into too many details, but
well, that can be for another show.
Yeah.
So, but we are in general aware that this is a thing, and we have plans to address it.
Okay. I think this is going to be my last one. This is by, oh boy, Schoenwiederich.
Yeah.
16.
First try. Now.
Sounds good.
Good work.
Champion point passives, especially the higher level unlocks, can bring an imbalance to PvP fights. Would you consider to change the battle leveling to compensate for this, or limit the amount of champion points in certain campaigns, especially the non-veteran ones, or remove them completely?
Yeah, there's certainly a number of things there we could do to address this. In general, we want a solution that works well in PvP and in PvE and is sort of, you know, just sort of fair and balanced overall. And we have some metrics too on like the number of champion points, and there's not really enough people at that high tier of champion points to make a campaign just for them, because they wouldn't have enough people to fight against.
Yet.
So something that sort of is a nice blanket sort of fix that helps everything is reducing the amount of experience, I should say, required to get a champion point, but just for the lower ranked champion points. So for example, if the first 300 champion points took half as much experience to get as the next half,
Right.
then that would allow people to sort of help get caught up to the people who are higher there. And then it's just sort of, that creates a sort of a tighter balance for all the environments, you know, then like it's easier, you know, people have a better time Dragonstar and they're having a better time PvPing.
Yeah. So is that just an idea that we're considering?
Yeah, that's just like one possible solution.
Okay.
If it ends up being there's a lot more people, you know, that end up being in that high group of champion points, then yeah, we could open up a campaign. So
Right.
there's a couple of options we have for that, which is nice.
Okay.
Well, I think I have the last question.
Ooh, the last one. Wow.
Last one.
This
Is
You made
really
it.
important. We made it.
we did
Together.
it. Yeah,
And none of
team.
these weapons are bloody yet.
So the last question is, can we have one more giveaway?
Oh. Do you want to do it?
Can I? Is that? I don't really know how. I
It's
like
okay,
say a
we'll
word.
We'll walk you through it. We
Yep.
can do this together.
All right, so
Um,
we're going to give away a t-shirt.
We're doing a t-shirt. Tell them it's a t-shirt.
Okay, T-shirt. You guys like T-shirts, right? Is it? It's not these, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
And then you can tell them the secret word, so they have to type it in to win. It's that one.
I don't get to make up the word
No.
because I got like a lot of good ideas
Yeah.
for words, but we're going with this
You
one.
should use that, otherwise Jason's going to be really upset.
All right, I like Jason. He's a good guy. I'm not gonna put him through anything here. All right. So the key word for the T-shirt giveaway is armor. ARMOR. Armor.
Armor.
And so like the shirt is the shirt like armor plated? Is that like the tie-in here?
If that's what you want to believe.
yeah.
Use your
That's what I'm
imagination.
doing. I'm a Dragon Knight and I got my armor shirt on.
You can role play that your shirt is armored.
You guys, the keyword isn't shirt, it's armor.
It's armor.
There we go. There they
Armor.
go.
I spelled it. It said armor. I feel like I kind of dropped the ball.
We
on this.
talked
Was
about
that-
shirts too much.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's
No,
my
they're-
first
they
time.
got it now. It's okay.
my first time. No one does good their
Armor,
first
armor,
time.
armor. Look how fast it's going.
Woo! Man, people really want these armor shirts.
The
So
person who wins is going to be so confused. You're going to be like, this is not an armor shirt.
this is a cotton shirt. Just so you know, the t-shirt is going to be not really of your choice. It's just whatever we have in your size. So,
And not armored.
and not,
Wait, wait, I have a
probably not
follow-up
It will
armored.
be an ESO shirt.
It will.
Will it be an Under Armour shirt?
No.
No, stop it.
Come on, that's like a real. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you can even say the winner if you want.
It's because she doesn't want to say it.
It's because it's
Is it
really,
like a crazy?
it's really hard. It's this one.
Ooh, that guy is a winner. Even without the shirt, he was a winner. This guy's name is
Starts with an L.
Laser Karate.
Nice.
Yeah,
Congrats,
that
Laser
guy's a
Karate.
winner. Way to go, man.
Nice name, too. Well, as per usual, Jason will get in touch with you on Twitch chat to get your address, and then we'll see what size you need and what we have in stock and ship it on over.
Awesome.
So Eric, thank you so much for joining us. That was truly a marathon.
This was a big show. Lots of
We
information.
got a lot of changes coming up. Yep.
And we will talk to you soon. We'll see you in a couple weeks on the show too.
I love coming
Along
on the
with
show. Love
Brian
talking with you
Wheeler. I
guys.
believe we will have the tag team of Brian Wheeler and Eric Wrobel on the next show.
Oh, we're gonna do so much high fiving. It's just gonna be.
They did bro fist.
Do some gun points too, right? We
Sure.
gotta get a couple of those.
Can do it.
My signature move was gonna be like a under the arm.
No, don't do that.
Gun point, but I don't know. There's like a mic I don't want to hit and stuff, so I think I'm gonna work on that.
And you
a
know,
little
it's awkward.
bit. Yeah, it's hard for the camera to really
Yep.
get what's going on there.
So, yeah, that
So
just about
that's
wraps
it for
it
our
up.
show.
That's it.
Great. Thanks for watching.
So thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining us. We will be back on Friday, July 17th. So we'll be going back to Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
We would love to know what you thought of today's show. It was super action-packed.
Yeah.
At least info-packed.
It was.
Roll dog.
Yeah. And if you have any creations, fan creations, music, drawings of Eric, please send them to us at community@elderscrollsonline.com.
Somebody please do that.
He's going to run away now.
We should leave. We should just leave. That's
All right,
it.
we'll see you in Tamriel, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.